Lieutenant Barber has earned a degree in environmental, soil, and water science and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into active duty medical service corps. Staff Sergeant Donald Lee Mock, U.S. Army retired, will render the first salute. Will Cadet Tyler Brandt and pinning party please come forward? Captain Justin Becker will administer the oath of office.
And agree to second lieutenant. Do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance. To the same. That I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation. Or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God.
Congratulations. And siblings Taylor and Ryan Brandt. Lieutenant Brandt has earned a degree in industrial engineering with minors in mathematics and transportation logistics and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the Corps of Engineers. Lieutenant Brandt's father, Chief Flight Officer Travis Brandt, will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Second Lieutenant Tyler Brandt. Will Cadet Tyler Casey and pinning party please come forward? Major Walter Hadley, U.S. Army retired, will administer the oath of office.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Tyler Patrick Casey,
Having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and that I take this obligation freely
and I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
I will well
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Lieutenant Casey will be pinning by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Sean and Alex Casey. Lieutenant Casey has earned a degree in geography and has been selected to assess into Colorado National Guard and is branching into the infantry. Sergeant First Class Adam Perfett, U.S. Army retired, will render his first salute.
Sir Tommy, give me a first salute.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Second Lieutenant Tyler Casey. Will Cadet Kevin Donovan and pinning party please come forward? Cadet Donovan's father, Lieutenant Colonel Mark Donovan, will administer the oath of office. Lieutenant Colonel Donovan is a recipient of the Bronze Star.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Kevin Wayne Donovan,
Have been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
have been appointed officer in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant.
in the grade of second lieutenant.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I will take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully
and that I will and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter.
of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Mr. and Mrs. Phil and Wanda Donovan, his parents, Lieutenant Colonel Mark and Miss Kim Donovan, his grandmother, Miss Barbara Watkins, and his siblings, Joe, Christy, and Heather Donovan. Lieutenant Donovan has earned degrees in criminal justice, political science, and sociology, and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the Transportation Corps. Petty Officer Weldon Watkins, U.S. Navy retired, will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Second Lieutenant Kevin Donovan. Will Cadet Lance Lanier and pinning party please come forward? Major Walter Hadley, U.S. Army retired, will administer the oath of office.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Lance Clark Lanier,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and that I take this obligation freely
and I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and I will well
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Lieutenant Lanier will be hidden by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. John Laurie Lanier, and his brother, Glenn Lanier. Lieutenant Lanier has earned a degree in nursing and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the Army Nursing Corps. Sergeant First Class Adam Burfett, U.S. Army retired, will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Second Lieutenant Nancy Lear. Sir, please be seated. Will Cadet Jacob Miller and pinning party please come forward? Cadet Miller's father, Major Mark Miller, will administer the oath of office.
I state your full name. Having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States, with the rank of second lieutenant, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign or domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God.
Lieutenant Miller will be pinned by his parents, Major Mark Miller and Miss Kathy Miller. Lieutenant Miller has earned a degree in international relations with a minor in political science and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the Military Intelligence Corps with a branch detail of armor. Sergeant First Class Adam Burfett, U.S. Army retired, will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Second Lieutenant Jacob Miller. Will Cadet Jack Powell and pinning party please come forward? Major Walter Hadley, U.S. Army retired, will administer the oath of office.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Jack Austin Powell,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and that I take this obligation freely
and that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and I will well
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Lieutenant Powell will be pinned by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ken and Chris Powell. Lieutenant Powell has earned a degree in agricultural business and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the Chaplain Corps. Master Sergeant Greg Thigpen will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Jack Powell. Sir, please be seated. Will Cadet Joshua Poltro and pinning party please come forward? Cadet Poltro's father, Lieutenant Colonel Gary Poltro, U.S. Army retired, will administer the oath of office.
I state your full name.
I, Joshua Grant Poltro,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter,
upon which I am about to enter,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Lieutenant Poltro will be joined by his parents, Lieutenant Colonel Gary Poltro, U.S. Army retired, and Mrs. Jamie Poltro, and his brothers, First Lieutenant Jacob Poltro and Second Lieutenant Zachary Poltro, and Airman First Class Nicholas Poltro. Lieutenant Poltro has earned a degree in management and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the armor branch. Second Lieutenant Poltro's brother, Airman First Class Nicholas Poltro, will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Second Lieutenant Joshua
Guys, over here.
Sir, please be seated. Cadet Ryan Rogers from Penny Party, please come forward. Cadet Rogers' grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Rogers, Sr., U.S. Army retired, will administer the oath of office. Lieutenant Colonel Rogers received 2 silver stars, 4 bronze stars, the Air Medal, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, which is their highest award. His badges include CIB and Airborne.
I, Ryan Lee Rogers,
Having been appointed second lieutenant in the Army of the United States,
having been appointed second lieutenant in the Army of the United States,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
Lieutenant Rogers will be joined by his parents, Mr. Richard Rogers, Jr., and Mrs. Jennifer Rogers, and his wife, Miss Caitlin Rogers. Lieutenant Rogers has earned a degree in Spanish, sociology, and criminal justice, and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the infantry. Corporal Lance Petters, U.S. Marine Corps, retired, will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Second Lieutenant Ryan Rogers. Sir, please be seated. Will Cadet Lisa Walterhouse and pinning party please come forward? Cadet Walterhouse's father, Colonel Douglas D. Walterhouse, U.S. Army retired, will administer the oath of office.
I state your full name,
I, Lisa Emiko Walterhouse,
having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
having been appointed an officer in the United Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Lieutenant Walterhouse will be pinning by her puppets, Colonel Douglas D. Walterhouse, U.S. Army retired, and Miss Miniko Walterhouse. Lieutenant Walterhouse has earned a degree in international relations with an emphasis in Asian studies and a minor in Japanese, and has been selected to assess into active duty and is branching into the Transportation Corps. Sergeant First Class Adam Botha, U.S. Army retired, will render the first salute. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Second Lieutenant Lisa Walterhouse. Will Cadet Tyler Woolbright and pinning party please come forward? Lieutenant Colonel Chad Quayle will administer the oath of office.
I state your full name.
I, Austin Tyler Woolbright,
Having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend
to support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation, purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of which I am about to enter.
of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
parents, Mr. and Mrs. Roger and Jennifer Woolbright. Lieutenant Woolbright has earned a degree in criminal justice and has been selected to assess into Arkansas National Guard and is branching into the infantry. Sergeant Zach Marsh will render the first salute.
Congratulations, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Woolbright. Congratulations, sir. At this time, I would like all our newly commissioned lieutenants to come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for the 12 newest second lieutenants in the United States Army. Thank you so much. You may take your seats. Please allow me to introduce our guest speaker for today, Brigadier General Keith Clemmer. Brigadier General Clemmer began his military career in 1983, attending basic combat training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and advanced individual training at Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. He entered the Reserve Officer Training Program at Arkansas State University in the fall of 1983 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1985. Brigadier General Clemmer is a career artillery officer and has served in infantry and artillery brigades, commanding at every level, from battery to brigade. He is a veteran of both Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm in 1990 to 1991, and Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003 to 2005. Most notably, he served as a division liaison officer to the British 1st Armored Division Artillery in Operation Desert Storm, and as an artillery battalion commander with the 1st Cavalry Division in Operation Iraqi Freedom. In December 2012, he was selected as the Deputy Adjutant General for Arkansas and was federally recognized as a Brigadier General on April 1st, 2013. He currently serves as chairman of the Field Artillery Advisory Council and is the Deputy Commanding General, Army National Guard Field Artillery at the Fire Center of Excellence. Brigadier General Clemmer and his wife, Sandra, have been married for 29 years and live in Russellville, Arkansas. They have 2 adult children, Rachel and Gunnar. Sir.
Well, I tell you, Chancellor Steinmetz, Mr. Jones, Colonel Quell, appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I want to talk about just one thing before I get started to kind of lighten everything up just a little bit. We tend to get too serious at these things. So I want to take you back about 2 months ago. If you look at my bio, I'm an Arkansas State graduate, okay? But I learned that doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter, because if you're from Arkansas, you're a Razorback, I don't care where you went to school at. And much to my dismay. So I found myself, and I tell you that when I discovered it, it was an awkward moment. It was when I was about to speak to 450 folks in Kansas at a ceremony at Manhattan, Kansas. So Manhattan, Kansas is roughly the home of whom? K-State. Now, who did Arkansas beat about a month prior pretty handily? Well, I didn't realize this till I got up to speak. And I was looking around, and the host of the event, he goes, "You do realize you're from Arkansas and you just beat us in football." I said, "Well, I'm an Arkansas State grad." So I got up and I said, "First off, I'm not an Arkansas Razorback. I'm an ASU Red Wolf. It didn't matter. I got the "you are a Razorback." So that was my introduction to what it means to be a Razorback. This is a great day for our officer corps, for the Army, and for our nation. We get a chance to commission 12 new officers into our Army. I'm reminded that today, and really within the last week and then the next few weeks, we're going to go through a very similar ceremony hundreds of times around our nation. We will commission, including those that attend West Point and some of the OCS programs, literally thousands of new lieutenants into our Army. And our Army needs the leaders of today to lead our Army in the future. One thing that I'm realized is that every officer that was up here today, every new lieutenant today has a story to tell. And you saw some of it in the photographs, but the photographs don't tell everything. A lot of the photographs that people put up are very nice things, fun things, good memories, but they don't put up the downside and the struggles that we go through. But generally, this is a very joyous day. As my bio was read, I don't know if you realize it, but 2 days ago, and I want to talk just a little bit about my career. I know Lieutenant Colonel Quayle kind of broke the ground on that. On May the 11th of 1985, I did the same thing that these new lieutenants did, accepted a commission into the Army of the United States. There were 32 others, so the ceremony was a little bit longer, 32 others that went before that with me, that joined the ranks of the nation's military that day. Probably about a month or two ago, I went back to I was looking through a binder. I was actually looking for another book, but I found a little binder my spouse had put together of sort of my military career that she put together on my promotion to Brigadier General. It's about that thick and different photos. Well, the very first photo